Hello and welcome to Crucible Bootcamp, episode 57. I'm your host, King Koala, and today we have a special treat. We're going to be taking a look at a submission by Lumi of BSK fame. He sent me a Fours clash match that he had recently against Team Dexterous. They're playing on Twilight Gap. So some major topics we're going to talk about today are why your fundamentals are key to success, how to play patient, and also how to play for angles. And we're going to notice some interesting things. At high level play, there's going to be things that you see and things that you notice that at first glance are either not going to make much sense or are going to look a lot better than they really are in reality. And for the reason for that, for a big part, is because of teamfire. So we're going to be talking a lot about teamfire. And some other interesting things we're going to note today are that some of the mistakes that Lumi makes, everyone makes. These are common mistakes that everybody makes. It's not just unique to a high-level player. And the mistakes that we're making as low and average level players, we're making the exact same mistakes. The difference, though, is that at high-level play, you get punished for those mistakes more, and those mistakes are less common. It's sort of the de facto, you're going to make a lot of mistakes as an average player, but when you get to a high level, the reason you're high level is because you don't make those mistakes nearly as much. That makes you not so much a reliability anymore. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Apologize for my dogs, they're kind of going crazy right now. Alright, so Twilight Gap. Twilight Gap's an interesting map. It's got a lot of different angles that you can get, both off spawn and turn down the quality on this a little bit. Both off spawn and as you move around the map. And the map, while on first glance is basically just two long hallways, there's a lot of action that comes into play all across the map. So everywhere from party room to wires to B pit to A railing, every major section on the map there will be an engagement. The important thing to note about Twilight Gap before we really get into it is that there's only two major spawn points. One, if for whatever reason both teams are evenly split across both the spawn points, that's B. You barely ever spawn B, and if you do, we're going to see your main goal and your main priority is really to regroup with your team, because normally you're going to be in between the enemies. You got to pick one side or the other. The two main spawn hubs are going to be C in the back C warehouse, and then out A rock, A railing side. That's it. So we're going to notice right away that these teams are going to push both sides. And those are the only places that they really need to push. So Lumi's opening gambit is to push to B, which is a really strong way to get a lot of map control, especially because we're spawning in C warehouse. And because we're going to push straight to C railing, our focus, and you kind of see just for a second there, you're going to see here, just on the edge right there was someone that was jumping up onto C railing. So that's going to tell us a couple things. One is that likely, because they're coming on railing and dropping down in a pit, that we're going to need to deal with angles here on the other one side of container, or possibly underneath in the pit down here. And then anyone pushing A railing to look into party room. So A railing would be this lane here, and they're going to be looking this direction, or they're going to be looking across here over B boxes. So Lumi's going to take one angle and set up to our left here. And he's going to go, and you can see he has his smoke, he has a spike grenade. He has a really smart spike grenade. So this spike grenade is really important. And he's going to immediately die because Hostile has the exact same idea that Lumi has. And that's they both want to gain that map position. So if we back it up a little bit here, a little bit more. So Lumi's going to throw his grenade here, and it's going to be pointed this direction because, again, if someone is posted up here like Hostile is, he's going to be having an angle in the party room. as BSK starts to set up their angles here. And we can see that at the end of this engagement, Ambu actually cleans up a hostile after he gets tagged by Lumi's grenade, which is basically means that as you push up into a position as a group of 4 players, you really want to focus on how you're going to create cross sections of fire. So you want positions where you're going to be able to do damage, and then at the same time, your teammates are going to be able to hit the same target. So this grenade basically keeps Lumi relatively safe. Unfortunately, Hostile has the same idea, and he puts his grenade here, which effectively does the same thing, right? Anyone on this side where Lumi is going to get tagged by that spike grenade. You can do the same thing with a lightning grenade. You can combine 2 grenades, so you can actually stick a lightning grenade and a spike grenade here, and the target would basically instantly die. You can throw a firebolt and a spike there. You could basically throw any extra tracking grenade there, anything outside of, say, an incendiary or a sticky grenade. If you have those grenades, you want to go into locations that are close quarters. This is pre-patch where your ammo would automatically load for you. So this is a couple weeks ago. But we're going to see as the game goes on kind of why it's important that you can't just instantly reload. So because he goes to the 50-50 there, right? And his opponent had the same idea, they basically trade kills. So now that he's split from his team, or split off from the whole map, and his team ends up pushing all the way across, he goes for angles down here, and he kind of peeks back and forth, back and forth. So this is really good, because you're going to notice throughout most of this game, Lumi doesn't really push into the team. He'll push up to right before he's going to get an engagement. He doesn't actually force the engagement most of the time. The majority of the time during this game, Lumi's going to set up on a spot and wait for the enemy to come to him. It's very, very patient play, and none of this game is flashy. There's a couple big moments that Lumi has, but absolutely none of it is by any means like amazing. Not to discredit Lumi, but when you watch these high-level games, it's rare for some kind of big like triple or quad kill to come around, because players at that level don't necessarily put themselves in those kind of situations where they're just going to get mowed down one by one, or they're all going to rush into a super. Like, that's not a norm. You know, you're not normally going to get a huge triple in a sweat. You're going to get 1, maybe 2 kills, and then try to clean up with the rest of your team during a push. And this is, to Lumi's credit, a good thing, because his play style is stable. Because he's not making these overly aggressive plays or these overly defensive plays, and he's turtling, he's just very actively moving up to gain that map control. And then, as you can see here, his teammates are behind him, so they're basically going to be coming up behind him and fanning out and covering the angles that he can't. So a sign of a good team is that you can set up on one spot and there will always be crossfire. No matter where your teammates are at, they're going to be set up in such a way that you're never going to be alone. And that's a huge thing about fours, is that you want to set up in a way that you're never alone. You never want to push in by yourself unless you're a true flank. And if you're a true flank, the only reason why you're going to be by yourself is because the rest of your team is already in an engagement and you're just there to clean up. Again, you're all in this general same area and you're all going to be hitting the same targets. You're never going to be in a 1v1 or a 1v2 if you can help it. Those situations are still going to come up, but you don't want to force those situations. So here, Lumi gets that first kill, and then he does what I don't see nearly enough Nightstalkers do, and that's he slides out to gain some ground, right? He knows he's weak, he knows his teammates are pushing up around him, and he wants to gain some more control. So what he does is he slides out and he shade steps around the corner, right? He shade steps around this corner in order to stick to his cover, because he knows that there are players up here in this area, right? There's players up on top container. They're going to be in that midfield type area by wires. And he wants to continue to move through cover, which is good. We always want to be moving through cover. Unfortunately, the mistake that Lumi makes is that he doesn't wait long enough to get his health back. As you can see here, he only has 1 bar of health, which is basically just your full health bar without shields. So he has 100 health. This means he can be 2-tapped by pretty much anything. And get really low if he manages to get headshotted. It's good that he won that engagement, but You still want to be careful when you push out. You don't want to go out when you're weak, because it's important to note that if you do kill someone on an enemy team, especially in a sweat, those players are all communicating where you're at and what your health is. So they know that Lumi's weak. They know he's going to be pushing out and when he's going to be pushing out, because they can see that and relay that to their team. So you have to be careful when you push out when you're weak, because you're either... The only really real reason why you want to push out when you're weak is because you're using yourself as bait. Because as we saw, our teammates were right behind us. So maybe we can force that player to stay in an engagement too long, so our team actually just team shots the person that ends up killing us, which is a good trade, right? Because we're gaining more and more map control to set up to start pushing spawns and to start split spawning people. Because we aren't that far from A, we're basically anchored on what's called anchored onto A. So we're always going to spawn back there because that's the closest position to our teammates. So during these stalemates, Lumi's not going to push up with his team. He's going to push around. During stalemates, the best way to break that stalemate is to pull around and try to get behind the enemy team. So that's what Lumi's going to do here. His team is pushing up to his right, and he ends up finding an angle that's right behind them. In his comms, they're calling him, hey, you're by yourself, come back. And he's like, no, I have good angles on them. They haven't seen me yet. And he's going to get one free kill and do a lot of damage to the target that's down in low pit and C pit. And you can see there, he doesn't have to finish the kill. He's weak, his teammates are there, he shade steps back. This is, again, sign of a really a player that's really aware of how much health they have. Right? He could have fully committed to this engagement here, and he would have ended up trading, which is okay, but not ideal. If you can survive and you can manage to let one of your other teammates get that kill, you get that extra 50 points. And in a game that's where the game type is predicated on getting as many points as you possibly can, every one of these assists count. Every time you get 2 assists, right? Every time 2 players get assists, that counts as another kill. So the more assists you can get, the better. Ideally, you get into a team fight. I mean, and this is like the best team fight you can have. You kill all 4 players, and everyone gets 3 assists on all of those kills. So that's 400 points, and then 150 points per kill. So it's an additional 450 points. So in one team fight, you can potentially get 850 points. Over double the amount that you would normally get if everyone just won a 1v1. So you can win the game twice as fast, or you can win the game with half as many engagements if you focus on team fire. That's why it's really, really important, because of the way the point system is set up for 50 points for an assist, that you focus on playing as a cohesive unit over an individual slayer. It's great if you don't miss any shots. It's even better if you can survive and let other people get kills too. So now he's basically set up here. He pushes up a little bit and he backs off. He's trying to hear callouts right now. They managed to get green. And here we're going to see his playstyle shift a little bit. So the game used to play in such a way that you would have a good engagement space for your weapon loadout. So when you had special ammo every single life, or you didn't lose it, if you ran like hand cannon shotgun, you could basically engage in a wide variety of ranges. But when you don't have special, you are limited in your ability to push and your ability to properly defend yourself against pushes yourself. So that's why it's so important now to play patiently and to play for these angles and play for team fire, because you don't have that ability to just constantly get these one-hit kills all the time. Now that he has shotgun ammo, you're going to see his playstyle change a little bit. Right? He's going to push up into the enemy team, because that shotgun is going to allow him the ability to very quickly kill someone. So unfortunately here, I think he gets shotgun melee, but it just counts as an architect kill. This I wrote down as a small mistake. It's good that here, when we're pushing forward, we're going to support our teammate, right? Matt's right in front of us. And even though Matt gets killed by a shotgun, if we weren't here, our opponent would get away for free. and this would just be a 1-for-0 exchange. We don't want 1-for-0 exchanges. The reason why we push with our teammates is because we turn these 1-for-0 exchanges into 1-for-1s or potentially more. Most notably, if we win this engagement, we control this space. Everything about this game is controlling space. Your guns let you control certain space, right? If you have a shotgun, you get to control very close range engagements. And if they come into there, then you kill them, obviously. If you don't have shotgun ammo, then you have to control a much larger space that's further away, right? There's going to be a dead zone. Let's say we have a hand cannon. Now, instead of this close quarters range, this is now dangerous for just a hand cannon. We actually want to control further out, right? And so there's basically this line we don't want to cross with our different weapons. So here, if we didn't have shotgun ammo, I would say we want to post up here and just be team firing. But because we have shotgun ammo, we get to do things like push with our teammates here. You know, we get that kill. And unfortunately, we just push a little bit too far. But in that engagement, and this is going to happen in fours a lot, no one really runs by themselves. Normally, you have a buddy. Normally, you're in a 2x2 or in a 3-1, from what I noticed. The 3-1 is normally when 3 players are pushing forward, 1 player is flanking around, which we saw Lumi do earlier. The 2-2 buddy system is when you're not pushing spawn and it's sort of a neutral state, right? You're just moving around with a buddy and you're slowly gaining that map control, but if you happen to get into engagement, the reason why you're with a buddy is because it's twice as fast to kill someone than normal. So if they happen to not have their buddy or they mistime their push out, you're going to end up in a 2v1, they're going to die, and then another 2v1, and they're going to die again. So you got to stick to your buddy. This is very common. If you're playing skirmish, similar things. Like you can stick with a buddy and have one person flanking, or you could push as a 3-man. So here's our first instance of off spawn. We're just going to push up, and we're going to slow push the mid, and we're not going to do anything because our teammate just died in front of us. You can see here, our teammate's dead in front of us. We don't really have a numbers advantage anymore. And we want to try to regain map control because right now our teammates are spawning behind us. So because our teammates are spawning behind us and we're the front, we don't want to force an engagement because we don't have a buddy right now. So all we're going to do is we're going to sit here and we're just going to play this angle. So if the enemy team happens to push up at us, you know, maybe they push up top container here, maybe they push to B railing, which is where Lumi's throwing his smoke right now. Maybe they push up from, I guess, the B opening. I don't know what the call out for this is. And then in mid here, maybe they come through party room. There's a lot of angles that we can cover from this position in C pit. So, but we don't have to force anything, right? Our teammates aren't there with us. So we're just gonna sit here and play safe, right? We push up a little bit and we pull back, right? Our teammates are here. And all we're gonna do is we're gonna set up this angle right here. So Lumi ends up getting a triple. But the reason why this triple even happened, and you notice he didn't 3-tap anyone, he only 3-tapped the first person he killed. Every other person that he killed after that was all team fire. So yeah, this is a huge play for Lumi. He gets a triple. I mean, triples and sweats for a single player, they don't happen every day. You can see here, he gets the 2-tap there, and he gets one shot on both of those players. But that happens because our teammates are right behind us. Watch it one more time. So teammates, see, one of our teammates just pushes up way too far on his own. So here, again, we're going to throw our smoke. We see people on B boxes. We get grapes, so we shade step it. Now we just play the angle. We don't need to push up any further than where we are. And because our teammates are right there to back us up, this is easy kills. Those 3 kills could have went to anyone. Now here we're going to see one of the first mistakes mistake that Lumi makes is that he knows where they're going to spawn. And because in Clash, your spawn timer is really low, unlike 3s, it's very dangerous to push all the way to the spawn. You want to push up and lock players into certain angles so you can start setting up around them because you don't have enough time to push all the way to spawn on your own anymore. He gets a little bit too aggressive and takes a line that's very dangerous because he has no cover and he doesn't immediately shade step back when he's pretty much lost the engagement. So again, we just got that triple. We know they're spawning out on A, so we're going to try to push to A. But instead of going over here onto A railing and trying, or onto I guess A rails, and trying to get an angle on A railing, on back A railing, as they spawn out into this location back here, we're going to take the mid platform here. We're going to try to get an angle on top of them. Now, the problem with this is, if you come up here, you need to immediately shade step back if more than one player comes. Because again, we want to focus on get some damage on our target and let a teammate finish them off, unless we're in a true 1v1. And because we know everyone is spawning out here, your main goal when you do these pushes is just get some damage on your target. So again, this is a very common mistake that pretty much anyone can make. I make these mistakes, you probably make these mistakes, and even Lumi makes these kind of mistakes, where he just pushes way too aggressive, and in the comments he's like, oh, you know, I got teamed, that's okay. It's okay. So he's going to wait for green, and again, his playstyle is going to change now. So now he can aggressively take that close quarters combat if he has to. He's trying to move back to support his teammate. So here, this is an interesting thing. So when you get your target weak, remember when we talk about when we're weak, well, what are our priorities? Our priorities are to get our health back and to bait our opponent, right, into a disadvantageous situation. So in this situation, if our opponent has shotgun ammo, which normally it's safe to assume if we just picked up shotgun ammo or we just picked up green, our opponent probably just picked up green. So they're probably trying to bait us, right? We got them weak, they ran around a corner. What do we want to do? We want to push forward and try to finish them off, right? Well, the opponent knows that. The opponent is probably just waiting around this corner, waiting for us to push, and then they're just going to shotgun us as we try to round this corner. So Lumi kind of sniffs out this bait, and instead of pushing forward, he immediately shade steps back. And as he thought, right, his opponent comes flying out. So his opponent tried to time their push out to when they would slide around that corner, right? So if that situation played out a little bit differently and Lumi took the bait, what it would have looked like is he would have, let's back this up just so you can see a little bit better. Here, we know our opponent is here around the corner, right? And our opponent is trying to time it so that we end up in this position and our opponent is going to be here. So we're going to be looking straight across, and then our opponent is going to kill us from above. But because Lumi kind of sniffs this out, like he thinks that's exactly what's going to happen, he ends up getting a free kill, right? Because when you jump out of cover like that, it takes you a long time to hit the ground. And if you don't hit all your shots in the air, and there is that level of inaccuracy in the air, if you don't hit every shot you need to in the air, then you're going to die. And you're almost always at a disadvantage there because you don't know exactly where Lumi is going to be because you're anticipating a movement. And if he doesn't do that, then you have to adjust your aim. Whereas Lumi, because he backed up and knew where the opponent was going to be, just had to wait for you to show up. Now, if no one showed up, Lumi still made the right play because you have to remember the disparity in stat spread. Because remember, we're a hunter right now, and our opponent's a warlock. So because our opponent's a warlock, they're going to recover way faster than most of us anticipate. So he knows he's just probably, even though he got his target really weak, that they're going to get into another engagement that's full health against full health. So that's not really... we have to focus on getting first shot because, again, we don't have a true advantage now, even though they just were weak. So again, that's how you deal with baiting, right? You call their bluff, and if they don't do anything, then you're still safe, right? So he gets his super, and he's going to push super aggressively with it. An important thing to note, and this is a very small thing, but this is very important with the shotgun changes. So we push out here. Our full intention is to tether here. We want to get rid of this tether right away in this instance. We're trying to get a lot of momentum from this. So when we tether here, right, we're going to get a kill, jump off the ground, and notice that he doesn't immediately fire as soon as he has his target in his sights. So remember that there's that inaccuracy in air with the inaccuracy in air debuff, the nerf that Bungie had, and also that there's no aim assist. Right? There's very little aim assist on your shotgun anymore when you hit fire. So, and we have rangefinder on our gun, so we want to make sure that all the pellets are going to hit. So Lumi takes an extra long time to actually fire, and he takes damage from the side during that time. We could have immediately shot and then tried to follow up melee, but because Lumi spent extra time or frames or whatever you want to call it aiming that shot, he's going to guarantee that kill. That's really important moving forward with all the shotgun nerfs, that you take that little bit of extra time. And you can see he had all that time to do it, right? Even though he got shot from the side. Here, we just make another basic mistake. We just over push. Now, this is only a mistake in that we miss our shotgun shot. The smoke placement is fine. We actually end up tagging our target a little bit, but we missed our shotgun shot, right? We were just a little bit wide right. Important thing to note is that Lumi had the right idea immediately shade stepping back, but whenever you play against a shade step and they get into shotgun range, no matter what class you're on, if a shade step gets into shotgun range and they shade step right in front of you, what you want to do is you just want to melee them. It's really hard unless you know exactly how the hitbox moves during the shade step animation, which can be wonky because they could be going at an angle, either direction, and then they're likely gonna pop up and out of it. You just want to melee your target, and so that's exactly what our opponent does. So when you play as a Nightstalker, if you can help it. And obviously in this situation, we didn't really have a choice. We missed our initial shot. But if you could help it, you want to shade step outside of melee range because you're basically defenseless during that entire animation. So it's to your opponent's advantage to just try to double melee you. It's really easy. Compared to you, if you're in that melee range, you're always going to be at a health disadvantage if they melee you first. So the best you can, you want to focus on, if you have to shade step, do so at a range that's outside of melee. Again, here we couldn't really help it. We just missed our shot, but that's kind of the power of shade step. The power of shade step is always going to be keeping that space, right? Okay, so the reason why we're hiding here, this looks really weird because you can't hear any of the communications, but the reason why we're hiding here is because the enemy pops a storm and he's hearing callouts where they're at. So if for whatever reason the storm happens to come over here, he's basically drawing the storm away from his team. This is just a kind of cute spot. It's not a great angle by any means. I mean, he gets a cheeky tag on someone that's on B, but the only reason why he's there is because he's hiding from a storm. So right now he's just trying to regroup with his team. You can see they're on C. He pushes a little bit too hard, but that's okay because his team is right there to support him. He wasn't in a great position just because he was split. His team was all the way back on C, and he knew that that Dexterous had just used that storm. So he's just trying to survive. So again, he found his buddy. His buddy's right behind him. He's going to push to B. He doesn't push straight through middle because he saw someone go to mid. So because he saw someone immediately go to mid, you can't really push up into that because they're going to be prepared for you. So he drops down and goes around. Here he gets a tag on a target that's trying to run away. Again, he's just trying to get his health back, waiting for his buddy. Matt shows up to help him out. And again, they set up some crossfire here. So you can tell Lumi's not pushing into the enemy team. He's not trying to force engagements. All he's trying to do is get into a safe spot to get damage on the enemy team. You don't have to be a hero to be a good player. You don't have to be a hero to win a match. But you do need to get into the thick of it, right? Lumi set himself up in a position where the enemy team is going to show up. As you can see there, again, poor team fire. Even though he's way too far away, it's okay because team fire is all about just putting damage down on someone. Before the hand cannon changes to initial accuracy, I would say you should never be attacking there. But because we're in a situation where we're attacking with our buddy, it's okay that we're doing half damage. It's still going to take the same amount of time to kill as if you were in a full damage situation. So here we're kind of back in that pit area that we saw the triple happen earlier. And in this stalemate, right, we know that they're in mid. We can't really push up into them. They have really good angles over us. Lumi's going to take this opportunity to move around. Again, our buddy up in party room, buddy right behind us, someone out on wires. So we're just slowly pushing forward to gain more map control as we move around. So here, you know, we didn't miss our initial spot, but we're just team firing, right? Ambu ends up trading with a 1, and then we bait the shotgun push. Nightstalkers are really good at baiting players into really crappy situations, because Shade Step creates so much negative space that there's a lot that we don't need to worry about. So here we're gonna see this at full time, and then we're gonna slow down and break down how this kind of happens and why this is important, what he's doing here, even though he ends up dying. So this entire engagement is really important because it highlights how you should move as a Nightstalker. So there's specific times when Lumi decides it's okay to move. And that's always when there's a Shade Step charge up. So remember, we used to have 2 charges back in the day. We don't have 2 charges anymore. So there's about 3 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds, where we don't have a charge, where we have to change up how we move around. So we Shade Step back, or we move into cover. We throw a lightning or a spike grenade here. That's going to cut off a push because the enemy team knows we're weak and they're coming in through mid, right? They're coming in through mid. So we want to kind of minimize our ability to immediately die and maximize our ability to do damage. So what this is going to do is say, hey, if you want to come challenge me, even though you know I'm weak, you're going to have to take damage to do it, which puts the engagement more on a neutral state than, you know, if you do nothing. This is why lightning grenades are really good, because it does the exact same thing. It's going to cut off a point or say you can walk through here, but if you don't shoot this grenade, you're going to take a lot of damage and potentially lose an engagement outright because I only need 1 shot on you as long as it's a headshot. It's similar situation with spike grenade. Spike grenade does a lot of damage really quickly, quicker than you probably think. So if all of a sudden you've taken 100, 125 damage, again, all they need to do is hit you with a headshot and they're going to die. So because he cuts off this angle here, he's given himself an opportunity to try to escape. So he Shade Steps back. Again, he didn't get quite far enough with that Shade Step. So he's going to actually back up, slide forward, and Shade Step again. And he doesn't try to move out from behind that box until he has another Shade Step ready. He didn't immediately try to slide out. He waited for that Shade Step to come back up and then moved out. Even though he ends up getting meleeed at the end, which is what the enemy team should be doing. Again, they should be meleeing you in the Shade Step at that range. His movement was really good. So here, again, there's that slow ADS in, right? He wants to make sure he's in that perfect shotgun range. You use shotguns enough, you kind of know exactly where that range is. I'm not a huge shotgunner. I don't exactly have a perfect, idea of where those spots are, but Lumi's been shotgunning for a long time. He knows much better than me. Generally, if you can't melee your target immediately after, you want to wait. So here, again, this is a common mistake that everyone makes, is that we push up to try to get a surround, and we push up too fast where our team can't get there to us. We push straight ahead. So this is important to see, just because even though we end up dying here, the reason why we're doing this, and you can even see here, is we have a teammate here to our right, we have a teammate just behind us, someone's here, and then the enemy is basically here on the other side of this wall and out here. So because of our teammates' positioning, The reason why we push straight forward is because our teammates are going to be sweeping around this way. Or one of the teammates is going to be coming this direction, and we're going to be going right through. So even though we end up dying, again, remember, our goal is to get damage on our target and try to survive. So initially, in reviewing this play, I would think that it would be best for Lumi to actually tether here and then have his teammates clean up, and he probably makes 1 or 2 orbs. Alternatively, he can push up to the door here and then play this angle and wait for his teammates to rejoin. And you can just team fire the remaining players here. But instead, he makes a mistake that most of us make, and he just over pushes a little bit. Because the enemy pops out at exactly the wrong moment when we're mid-jump. If the enemy had popped out at any other moment but then, we probably would have been okay with that push. So here, even though we get a tag of smoke on a target for just an instant, and I'm not sure if you saw this or not, for just an instant, we can see that someone is in mid right now as we pop out around the corner. Here, we can see that someone is in mid, and we're going to get the tag on someone here on wires. So you have to have really good presence of mind to play at this high level, because most players, when they tag someone with smoke, are going to go push that player. But the problem with that is, if we push this player through wires, right? Someone is here, and we have a target here. If we push this player through wires, even though this guy is weak, he's retreating to his teammate. So you always have to be paying attention both to your radar and to what you can see in front of you. Because normally, I would say, yeah, go push this player. They're weak. But because we see someone in mid, we're going to get team fired as we round this corner. And best case scenario is we end up killing the target here and then dying to this target here, resulting in a 1-for-1. Or even worse, because our target that we're killing here could potentially put damage on us, and then we're down 50 points because they get 150 for the kill and the assist. And we only got 100 points for chasing down our weakened target. So this is just really good map awareness and kind of knowledge of where the enemy is going to, where the enemy is going to be at. So instead we're going to move around. And again, unfortunately, we just push a little bit too far, not really prepared for that enemy player to kind of challenge us. But Matt ends up going big here, getting a nice triple. Or he gets a double and someone else kills someone else. They call out the storm, where it's coming from. Lumi gets a perfect tether out because of those call outs. And then he makes a couple orbs because someone walks into his tether. And then it's just clean up from there. So now that they know that players are going to spawn out on A railing, they're going to push. He's going to push up here, right? He gets a couple shots on his target. And this is the point when you want to get off of your line. Because remember how in the very beginning of the game, our opponent threw a nice spike grenade here and killed us? Well, if that happened once, it's likely to happen again. So you want to respect that. You want to respect what your opponents can do. We already did our job. We got a lot of damage on someone. We got them within one shot. That's good. We can see our teammates are kind of behind us, pushing up this direction. So we have basically done our job, and because we know that the enemy is spawning out here on railing, there could be a bunch of people out here now. We don't want to commit fully to this engagement. We just want to back off and try to get a new angle. Sometimes that means going this way. Sometimes that means dropping down into the pit. Sometimes that means going on top of the container over here and looking across. There are lots of options, but we don't want to stay in the same spot, because if we go to peek again, we start getting team shot. So we get a nice team shot there, but eventually our luck's going to run out. So we end up dying to a smoke. So we did good, at least pulling a kill out of that, getting at least 1 assist, possibly more. But it would have been more prudent to actually shade step off of that line and try to start attacking from different angles. So here, because we're down teammates, we're just playing our spawn right now. We're waiting for our teammates to spawn up, and we're just trying to take pot shots, do as much damage as we possibly can. Ambu spawns up, and because they're pushing us off spawn, just gets a free double. So they just end up pushing way too far into the enemy team, or into our team. And here, again, we just got 2 assists, basically doing nothing. We tagged a guy once, maybe we hit a guy with a smoke. We let our teammates who had better angles finish them off for us. So here is a perfect example of cutting someone off. So he gets a call out that someone is weak and going through B. So he can see here, right? There's someone in front of us and he's going this direction. And we can see on our radar that our teammates are up here, basically, and they're coming this way. So our opponent only has 2 options. He can run this way and try to regroup across the chasm, or he can run this way and try to engage us. If he runs this direction, then we have shotgun ammo, so we're just going to immediately body him. If he runs away, then we take control of B, and we take pot shots on him as he tries to run and regroup with his team. But either way, the line that we're taking is not the same as our teammates. The line that we're taking is to cut off any escape routes that he has. This normally will result in a 1v1 engagement, which is okay. It's not ideal, right? Ideally, we want to be with our teammates, we want to be with our buddies, and just getting 2v1s. But if we're going to cut off any kind of escape, sometimes you just get into a 1v1. And those are the situations where you just need to hit your shots. Or in this case, body him with a shotgun. So here, now we've taken control of B. He ends up dodging a Nova. I still don't know how he dodged that Nova, or even had the presence of mind that Nova was coming. I think that might have just been him thinking they were going to push him. But right now he's just kind of in survival mode. He's trying to bait someone around these corners. They have a solar, a radiant skin up right now. He pushes to go shut down the radiant skin, which he does, and gets tagged in the back. So Ambu's kind of in trouble here. He tries to go support, but it's a little late. Here, he gets him weak. Takes a 1v1. Shade step back into cover. It's a nice spike grenade just to cut off one line. And here is a situation that if you're on the opposing side, you didn't want to take that peek shot. So the reason why you take peek shots is not because you want to try to continue the engagement. The reason why you peek shot or jump shot like that is because you want to finish the engagement. So you have to make sure that when you take this peek shot, you only have time for one shot, and that one shot better kill your opponent. In this case, Lumi has full advantage here because he has a huge health advantage. I say huge, but it's only one shot. But one shot is pretty big in a hand cannon fight where you only need 3 shots, right? Once, twice, he's only taken 100 damage at that point. So even if his target... So again, we've hit once. So we have 100 health here. So our target has to hit us with a headshot and 1 body shot or 2 body shots. So when our target, now that we've hit him twice, when our target goes back into cover like this, he needs to escape. He needs to get out because he has to hit 2 shots. You only have to hit 1. This is a situation where you need to be very aware of how much health that your opponent has or how much damage you've done yourself. If you've only hit them with a headshot, you know, well, I gotta hit 2 bodies. You don't necessarily have to know the math behind it, but you do know that you need to hit 2 more shots. In this case, just run away, right? Just get your health back. Don't try to get cheeky. Even though there was a teammate there to help him out, that teammate could have helped him out, killed Lumi, and we could have survived. And if this happens against you, if you have a health advantage against a target, all you really need to do is just have a cleaner shot than them. So here, again, Lumi tries to cut off an escape route, and he basically funnels hostile into the storm, and then they just get a melee kill to finish it off. So, important things to take away from this game is that nothing throughout this entire game, Lumi did nothing flashy. He had some nice kills, right? He had that triple that was a result of team fire. He had a double at one point with the tether, a nice shotgun shot. But nothing he did was like, he didn't have some crazy like 1v4. He didn't have some crazy situation where he got a kill and then got really weak and had to hide and jump through all these hoops and then managed to get out unscathed. He didn't do anything like that. All he did was he hit the shots when he needed to hit them. He had really good grenade and smoke placement, and he knew what his limitations were, right? There were a couple things that happened where he would overpush, or his push was like just straightforward or obvious, or just too aggressive. But for the most part, he was patient. He played his angles. He waited for his team. Everything that's fundamentally important about succeeding in Destiny. Fundamentals are really everything this game has to offer. If you can hit all your shots, then you can basically move wherever you want if you don't miss. That's why it's so important, not necessarily to be able to jump through all these hoops and hit a sticky grenade from downtown, or be able to lob a hammer perfectly through a corridor, or be able to Nova Bomb over a building and hit a point. Like, you don't need to know how to do that. That's great. Put in your montage. But what you need to do is hit all your shots. That takes a lot of practice. A lot of boring practice. But just like hitting free throws, you're not going to get good at the game unless you practice your fundamentals. And at the highest level, fundamentals are what will get you the furthest. It's not making big flashy plays. It's being consistent and being a good teammate, right? Lumi was an excellent teammate in this game. At no point did you see him run off on his own and be so far away from his teammates that if he died, then he made no impact. Even when he died, there was a teammate close by to clean up, or there was a teammate close by to get a double, or to keep that map control, right? They didn't lose map control because he pushed and necessarily lost a 1v1, or he overpushed, because his teammates were always right there behind him to almost immediately start putting damage on the opponents. I'm going to keep playing this just because I want to show something at the very end. With the score screen. And most of his mistakes throughout all this game were mistakes everybody makes. Everybody overpushes from time to time. Everybody maybe loses a 1v1 every now and then. Maybe you push with the idea that you're going to use your super, and then you just die because you get team fired because you're over aggressive about it. You're trying to force an engagement over just let it happen naturally. So even at the top play, everybody makes those same mistakes. There's nothing, there's nothing that's stopping you from becoming just as good as Lumi. The only thing that's stopping you from just becoming as good as Lumi is you, right? You didn't put in enough practice. Maybe you don't hit enough shots. Maybe you don't have good decision making. But these are all things that you can work on. You can practice. It's not unreachable by any means. The last thing I want to point out before we go is the assists. So this here is a huge reason why there's a 2,300 point gap between the teams. Because you can see there are 35 assists that happened in this game. 35. 18, 35. So that, if we just multiply it out, 50 points each one, right? Do some basic math. Carry the two. 1,750 points. So this is a 2,300 point game. So without assists, this is the difference between, we're only 600 points without any assists. That's why it's really important that you team fire, because it gets really easy to win games because you don't have to get into nearly as many engagements. If you're getting almost 1,800 free points, 18 kills worth of points, that goes a long way, especially in fours. That's a lot of points that you don't have to worry about anymore. That's a lot of supers you don't have to worry about because they don't have the time to get them back. So when you do play fours, when you play threes, when you play trials, how you know you're playing a good team, or how you know you're playing as a good team, is the amount of assists they get. Good teams have good team fire. They set up good angles, they play patiently, they punish you for every little mistake you make. That's really all there is to it. All right. That's pretty much it. I want to say thank you to Lumi for submitting this. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun for me to review high-level play. There's a lot of nuance that goes into it. There's a lot about this game that I didn't talk about, but definitely go check him out. Luminosity48, I think that's still his channel. That'll be linked and all that jazz. I really hope that I'm probably going to start reaching out to other Sweats players to submit me some stuff, just so us as a community can start learning from both each other and then also those that we aspire to be like. It's always really good to see really high-level play and see what we're doing differently, right? And maybe what you're doing differently is that you're just playing too aggressive. Lumi didn't necessarily play super aggressive. There was, nothing flashy about what he was doing. So maybe we're playing too flashy. Maybe we're trying to be too much of a hero and not enough of a teammate. Yeah, that's the show. If you want to support the stream, you can always become a Patreon backer as usual. You can get personal tutoring, some coaching, all that good stuff. It goes right into the wedding fund, all that jazz. Tell your friends about the show. The best way for me to grow is really for you to get other people involved. I'm doing the best I personally can at the moment. There's obviously more that I can be doing that I'm working on, but it's also, if you want to see the show grow, go tell your friends. If you want your gameplay reviewed, you can always send it to me. Now I've done 4s officially. So I'll do 4s, and I still do trials, rumble, skirmish, salvage, anything but 6s. So you have any gameplay, submit me a link, either a Twitch link or preferably a YouTube link. I know if people are on Xbox, you can send me an Xbox Clips link. And you can send those to Keen, Keen, at cruciblebootcamp.com. They go into a queue. If I pick your gameplay to review, I'll email you back. I'll tell you which episode's going to be yours. If you can make it live, that's great. If you can't, that's okay. There's always going to be an archive. Yeah, this has been Crucible Bootcamp. I've been your host, King Koala. Class is dismissed. See you guys next time.